The thing is, you are the guy I came to for that advice in 2020. And you made a big positive impact on my life by encouraging me to go for cybersecurity. You didn't say, no, now isn't the time, right? However, it's 2024, 4 years later. Would you give that same advice to me today?
To paint it with that wide a brush, are there areas that are falling off the cliff and they're not going to be needed anymore? Absolutely. Security as a whole, is it growing? Absolutely. So it really depends on what you're looking for, what your skill sets are. Security has always been, and I think always will be, in some respect, something of a more senior-ish type position. And the reason for that is you need to understand the underlying piece of something.
Alan, good to see you. Looks like we're twinsies today. Thanks for coming on the channel to help people break into cybersecurity and also talk about using AI in security. How are you?
Really good, thanks. And happy to be here. Thanks for the invite. Appreciate it.
Well, we met in 2012 as classmates at the same business school, and turns out we work in the same software company. So that was a good icebreaker to meet someone in another department I otherwise wouldn't have. Happened to be security. And at that point, you'd already been in information security for 4 years, 2008, right? So you've been doing this a while. You've gone on to be a CISO at large financial institutions. You've been a virtual CISO in education. And now you're a fractional CISO, a vCISO, actually. So the first question is, what got you into security so early? And what's kept you there this whole time?
Yeah, so great question. It's always fun to talk about yourself, right? So I started off actually, ironically, in accounting, and that just wasn't for me. So I didn't go as far as you with a CPA. So hats off to that. I've always liked the big picture of stuff. So when I first got into technology, I gravitated towards architecture, big picture, then realized all the decision makers are more on the business side of the fence. So I wanted to see how that was done. Got into project management. And then as I was over at BlackBerry at that point in the R&D department and wanted to, progress a bit more. And so I applied for a program manager position. And I'd had interest in security. So I had done my CISP as a project manager. And when I applied for the role, it turned out not to be related to project management at all. So I actually got the job. I went through the whole interview process, and neither of us realized there was a disconnect.
This has happened multiple times during the hypergrowth of this company. So that, yeah, okay.
Yep, exactly. I'm assuming it happens in other companies too, but I'm with you. So I started. I was in charge of some security certifications for some products at hardware and software over at BlackBerry, and really enjoyed it. Got to see another side of the company, making things and sort of helping with sales and helping with another side of the business that I hadn't seen because on the R&D department,
I saw
cool.
a lot of getting to the front office. Yep.
Absolutely. And to be honest, they sent you on more fun trips, so that was fun too. And so from there, I got a call back from a company I had been at previously, and they wanted me to build out a security program on the corporate side of the fence, which I did, and it just sort of kept going from there. I got the occasional phone call, made some networking connections, and things have worked out. And I've really enjoyed the fractional and the virtual side of the fence because you get to see a lot wider view. So again, going back to the big picture, going back to the strategy, going back to that discussion, I get to do a lot of that in my current role, which I really enjoy because they have different, basically business practices and goals and sales goals, and then which translates to different IT and technology, which translates to different security. Always changing, always new. And I'm always behind, no matter how hard I try. So it's
yeah. It's just around the corner. We'll be caught up just around the corner, eh?
Oh yeah, I stopped deluding myself long ago on that one. But yes.
Well, I think they talk about your career being in a mountain, and you picked a good mountain and you stuck with it, and that's that's interesting to think about how other people should shape their careers and how fruitful it's been for you to be in security. Now, let's have a balanced perspective here, okay? So I emailed you that LinkedIn post from a famous CISO hacker saying, to all the people contacting me for advice about entering the cybersecurity profession, here's my advice. Don't. Seriously, now isn't the time. So, that's really against the grain, but I mean, smart person knows their stuff and they're the heart of the industry. Now, the thing is, you are the guy I came to for that advice in 2020. And you made a big positive impact on my life by encouraging me to go for cybersecurity. You didn't say, no, now isn't the time, right? However, it's 2024, 4 years later. Would you give that same advice to me today?
Yeah, to you, yes. And that's the important part. No, but that's the important part of the conversation, right? To
Mm.
paint it with that wide a brush, are there areas that are falling off the cliff and they're not going to be needed anymore? Absolutely. Security as a whole, is it growing? Absolutely. So it really depends on what you're looking for, what your skill sets are. Security has always been, and I think always will be, in some respect, um, something of a more I don't senior-ish type position. And the reason for that is you need to understand the underlying piece of something, right? So you had a very strong background in accounting, business, and compliance, GRC, brilliant. So transitioning into security, that's a natural fit that makes sense. And I think it would be now as much as it was before. If you are somebody who, your thing has been hacking into legacy systems and data centers, and that's what your goal is. That's the footprint's going to be much smaller there. You can have a lot less opportunity. Now, if you're able to upskill and change, like for instance, if you were in 2004 and you were an HTML programmer, probably a great career at the time. 2024, not so useful. However, web development in its current form, absolutely a thing. But the technologies that were there before, not as relevant.
And
You just need to
transferable
adapt and change.
skills, right? You would expand your
Absolutely.
portfolio building on that. I gotcha.
Absolutely. And I think, so one of if you're looking at getting into security, which I'm probably skipping ahead. Did you want me to wait on that one? But I have thoughts on that too that I think translate.
Let it rip, man. It's,
All right.
we want to have a balanced perspective. It's a tough market out there.
Yep.
On the other hand, you could say don't get into HR because of tech layoffs. Don't go into accounting because of tech layoffs. So, and maybe cybersecurity is a faster growing segment, but it's hard to get your foot in the door and you need to go where the jobs are. So I just want any wisdom you can provide to try to make sense of, these competing views and how to help people navigate through them.
Absolutely. So where I would go then is so and this is one of the things I love about security. Think about any technology anywhere, there's a security component to it. If that technology is going
Yes.
away, the security portion of it is also going to be going down, right? So you look at AI, you look at machine learning, you look at big data and all that kind of stuff, growing leaps and bounds. Security related with that, data governance, prompt engineering and all those different attack vectors there, growing like crazy. So if you were looking to planning to get into security and you have an interest in that, if you can become knowledgeable in that area, and again, you don't have to be like the world's best or whatever, but just understand it. So understand what the gaps are, what the potential holes are, how to fix things. Then you take that one step leap, that sort of sideways step into security, but you're still like the AI, machine learning, whatever it is, person. Tons of
Yes.
opportunities there, right? Um, so I think there's a bit of a plan needed, but I think it's very myopic, unfortunately, to say like, or I don't know if myopic's the right word, but basically it's too broad a thing to say yes or no. It really depends, right? It's like, is going into finance good? Well, yes, no, depends what you're trying to get into.
I think companies are going to need compasses to navigate and make decisions in for-profit enterprises, which is going to need finance, right? So like there may not be a glut of jobs posted right now. However, does that mean you don't go into accounting because you're an undergrad student, right? You got to look longer term. And also, I think that I've certainly, and I think everybody has. Your career is a jungle gym. You have some difficult troughs, and then you have some peaks, and you just try to figure out how to navigate through that. But if you are passionate about something, if you're propelled by it, you need to look at the long term. Actually, one that it propels you, and you see a need for it in the world, and that's what you want to do in the world. But two, let's look at the long term payoff of starting in cybersecurity. So, despite the macro that isn't great, it's still one of the faster growing areas. And I could see it, I don't see demand trending down, frankly, for the amount of internet and technology risk that we have. And so if you look longer term, I mean, maybe getting into it and having less jobs posted now immediately, but maybe you're better off down the road. And certainly you're an example of that, right? Because you fell into it and look where it took you. Um,
And
okay,
it's
well,
adapting to the business environment too. So for instance,
hmm,
I started off in product, went into corporate, and it was very much based on the company it was at. Having said that, not every company needs or wants a dedicated security person where, virtual or fractional CISOs come in. So you adapt with that too. So I've got the skill set,
just
but
like
you know what?
fractional CFOs, I gotcha.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So how do you, market your skills? Because as a company, right, like if you were, in the old days, you were making, widgets and they just don't they're not used anymore, so they need something new. You adapt your business. Same thing with your personal brand. You got to do the exact same. Upskill, keep learning, and make sure it aligns somewhat with what you enjoy anyway. You can't hate every day. Nobody loves everything they do all the time, but you
Yeah.
want to make sure there's that balance.
Well, and I think that's actually an interesting thing about security is this mission of protecting people is very compelling. So it's about trying to find out how can you advance that mission, matching your skills and breaking in. So thank you. I think that's helpful to give people from diverse backgrounds some encouragement. They see the headline now isn't the time, and they, turn around. I think maybe if you, there are also a lot of encouraging reasons to go for it, and nothing's guaranteed, but certainly there's a lot of different opportunities and a lot of different directions in the domain of cyberspace. All right. Well, another thing I want to talk to you about, because things have gotten pretty interesting since November last year, using AI in the context of being a GRC practitioner or a cybersecurity practitioner. I told you I was working on the Fabric project and how that was interesting to see how, as a knowledge worker, it augments a number of things in my workflow. You're using it too in the context of your vCISO work. Could you just tell me what you're doing and experimenting with and what it looks like?
Absolutely. So this goes back again to what we were just talking about, but more on the technology side. So the technology is evolving. So there's this new technology, but how is it useful? What can you do with it? So same as we were talking about from a career perspective, I've got this knowledge. What can I do with it? So for Fabric, by the way, I loved the videos on that. I went through them. They were great. In my case, so it's not so much as a personal assistant. It's more of a how do we leverage, the business knowledge, right? Because if you have a foundation model, so in the large language models, you got these foundation models. They're kind of what you start to work with. That's all the stuff the big companies have worked with. And then you take your secret sauce, if you will, and sort of mix it in there. And then you're able to leverage that. And then it puts it into that context. And then you can have, automated reports and queries and chats and all sorts of good stuff. So what I've been playing with is in the BEDROCK environment in AWS. And using CLAUDE, which is by Anthropic. And unfortunately, for some reason, I don't understand. It's not available in Canada. So I need to use a VPN, but
if you bring out your credit card and put a $20 credit on it, it works just great.
And you can actually get in and actually do stuff. It's not, because if you go to the list of countries it's available in on their site, it's not there yet. Maybe they just haven't updated it.
So I'm not using the web console. I'm using an API key connecting from Fabric from Canada, and it didn't work for a free $5 credit. But if I put $20 on with my credit card, it's happy to. And wow, the insights, it can consume a book and stack rank the biggest insights in it in a stunning way. So
Absolutely.
that was an eyebrow raiser when I saw that result.
Oh yeah, they're all going so fast, like leaps and bounds, right? And that's the key thing. And from a security perspective, right? So you have the technology moving this fast, you have regulations that are way behind. Then you have business cases that are pushing the boundaries, but people are implementing this without understanding what the gap is, what they're doing. They don't fully get everything, and the developers, the product hasn't got there yet. So big opportunities going back to the career perspective, which is one of the things I'm aware of when I'm playing with this. But CLAUDE in particular, so to your point, summarizations, all that kind of stuff, amazing. It can also do formatting quite well. If you use Llama, for instance, great product, not knocking it at all. However, it refuses to format. It's kind of like, ask it to do a list and it will do everything but, or it might put a number in, but it's not going to make a list. It's just not its thing. I don't know. But
I'm in
great.
Markdown in a command line, so I'm not doing much formatting. That's interesting. Okay.
So that was one of the reasons we leaned that way. But yeah, using the RAG architecture, so taking basically the secret sauce, taking it, mixing it around using Chroma, and then being able to use it on top of a foundation model. So basically you have a personalized, AI environment, or more so anyway, without retraining it, which is expensive. And you have issues like amnesia where it, blocks things out, the weightings get all crazy, which we don't have the resources for. So it's great to continue to learn. But that's the fun part about technology and security. If you enjoy that stuff, it's a great career path.
Yes, continual learning. And I think that's interesting because, in accounting, you've got CPAs in Ontario getting drones pilots licenses to count inventory with drones, right? Like,
yeah.
They already have a continuous learning mindset, right? They're already, digital transformation is Uber disrupting how we do taxis, right? So it's just like, I think I think I was surprised, and other accountants would be surprised at how this continuous learning mindset can be applied in a totally different, not in different, but in this cyber security environment, and these skills are needed, which has been pretty. I want to tell more people about it. Like that's why I'm here. Now, another polarizing topic here, AI, right? It's a little bit scary. It's a little bit Skynet. So I got a note from a CISO in Montreal, and he says, it's essential we help promote useful application of AI. Currently, there's either too much hype or fear-mongering. So I've been following that discussion since about, December, January or so. I've distilled down, I think, what are the 4 points to balance, well, at least for myself, like where I've landed as a balanced perspective. Can I share those with you and just see what you think about them?
Of course, yeah.
Okay. Here they are. So, while AI is a monumental step forward, we can expect a hype cycle and a trough of disillusionment, just like we saw with the internet bubble bursting in the year 2000 and every technology segment since. So, next, valid concerns exist, but dwelling on the negatives is unproductive. So my goal is not to avoid AI and just say, no, it's Skynet, I'm out, like I'm going, but I want to understand and practice using it as much as I can, because AI will naturally and inevitably unfold like every other technology, whether I like it or not. And while I try out CLAUDE, like we're talking about, well, I'm using Fabric, sending prompts to GPT-4 and CLAUDE with an awareness of the risks and the hype. I know nothing's private, right? I know that it can hallucinate, right? But I consider that when I make my use case. So, and the bottom line is it's adding real value. I'm a knowledge worker, and it augments my knowledge work. So anyways, so it's like I'm kind of like cautiously optimistic and encouraging people to try it and to engage. I don't know. How'd I do? And what do you think?
Oh, I completely agree. I think that, so going to the Gartner's hype cycle with the trough of disillusionment and stuff. So absolutely, especially when expectations are this high, because the stuff we've seen it doing are, mind bending, right? This is crazy stuff that it's doing, and it's only getting better, and it's like a straight up hockey stick. Like it's crazy. I think your approach of cautious optimism, but understanding limitations is absolutely key. I think that is, that's life, right? Things are rarely as good or as bad as they're made out to be, from a publicity standpoint or the hype around it. One thing to keep in mind, though, especially from a when you're looking at new tools, is that the money is going to follow this stuff. So there's going to be a lot of new investments. There's going to be a lot of new startups. There's going to be a lot of new opportunities. So keeping up and understanding it's, there's going to be a point of consolidation. That's what happened with the dot-com bubble, all that kind of stuff. So when you're looking at tools, you're looking at different options, where's it going to end up? And that's kind of one of the key things from a technology perspective to try and, predict, if you will. When you're getting on, picking a horse, which one's going to be left standing at the end. And I think that's going to be a portion from a business perspective, an architecture perspective, but from a business functionality perspective, I'm understanding the realities and limitations and stuff. I think we have just scratched the surface of what it's able to do. There's going to be bumps. There's going to be the disillusionment, all that stuff. But the fact that it's going to be sort of able to learn itself, and how they implement that, and with the hardware improvements and the chip improvements, like I went through the dot-com bubble, I went through the financial crisis, all that kind of stuff. This is different. This seems like more. I'm excited about it.
It's the electricity.
Yeah.
And it is exciting. Like I think you start working with it, you start seeing what it can do. I feel like I have to, right? Because I want to keep up with the wave. And it is pretty fun to stumble through it and then something works and it lit right up. Like I'm doing it. So that's an exciting reason to jump in and try it as well. All right. Well, Alan, thank you so much. I think this is helpful to meet people in industry who are in security, to help people figure out how they can follow a similar path. So, you've got a unique story to share that others can follow. Any final thoughts you would give to job seekers or to people thinking about trying AI, or just any final thoughts at all?
Yeah. So I think I think the important part is, so security is great. If that is your goal, as I mentioned, know something, have an area of expertise that you can sort of move into. When so one of the things that I did as part of my journey to where I am, I did a stint in auditing. So the head auditor, exactly, there you go. That's where the thinkers go, right? And our lead auditor gave some career advice to the group. So this was at John Hancock Manulife.
Yep.
And he
I
said
worked there
basically,
too.
oh, all right.
So,
They've got a huge audit area, compliance, GRC, all that good stuff, right? So he said, when you're moving on a career, don't go more than 2 steps removed from your core competency. So make 1 step. So for instance, if you're in technology, okay, cool, get to know, I don't know, AI. And then from there, take a side step into security with a focus on AI. So what you don't want to do is jump from, if you're, I don't know, you do firewall configurations or something, and then jump to cloud security or AI security, because now you're moving into a competency you don't know, as well as, security environment you don't know. And so you're not setting yourself up for success the same way. So if you have a roadmap and a plan, so learn AI security. From there, you can maybe more governance stuff, and then from governance, then you can more leadership, CISO, if that's your goal. I think lots of opportunities, and don't think short term, just like you were saying, right?
I think that's great advice. It made me think of 2 pictures. The CPA competency map in Ontario or Canada is a tree, and it's got branches of different areas. And then an accounting mentor I had said, try to, in advancing your career, try to find a branch on the same trunk, which is the same advice you're saying, like as opposed to growing an offshoot over to the side. And then the other one is cyberseek.org, and they talk about how you can go from IT auditor or financial analyst into different, basically describing what you just said in terms of how to navigate through different roles and take it one link at a time. Well, very good. Well,
Absolutely.
thanks a lot, Alan. I'd like to have you back and look forward to the next time. Thanks for telling me to get into cybersecurity 4 years ago, and we'll let you go.
Absolutely. And by the way, great podcast. Big fan. Thank you so much.